Well, welcome to Hebrew, Torah portion through the lens of relationships. I'm Sarah.
I'm Mark.
And yes, we are married.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so let's get started. We are in Genesis 18 through chapter 22. Feel free to follow along. We would love to be able to know your all's insight in regards to what we've been studying for the last couple weeks. So let's go.
So this Torah portion is called Vayera, and the Hebrew breaks down there to basically, and he appeared. And yes, this is starting in Genesis, a better sheet, chapter 18. The first point that we're going to bring out is going to be in the first 4 or 5 verses. We're going to go ahead and read that. Genesis 18, 1 through 5. And Yah appeared to him by the terebinth trees of Mamre while he was sitting in the tent door in the hint of the day. And so he lifted his eyes and looked and saw 3 men standing opposite him. And when he saw them, he ran from the tent door to meet them and bowed himself to the ground and said, Adonai, if I have now found favor in your eyes, please do not pass your servant by. Please let a little water be brought and wash your feet and rest yourselves under the tree. And let me bring a piece of bread and refresh your hearts and then go on, for this is why you have come to your servant. And they said, do as you have said.
Hospitality, people. Are you hospital? I said the wrong word originally.
Hospitable.
Hospital, whatever. Anyways, you get the idea. Do you invite people into your home? And if you do, how often are you wanting to do that? When you're in a relationship, when you are married, when you have roommates, how often are you okay having people into your home? I remember when Mark and myself started to go out, he knew that I had game nights over at my house every other Friday. So it was like, okay, this is how my life is, and I like to entertain and want to have people over. Are you okay with that? You know, you have to be willing to be hospitable.
Thank
you. I cannot say that word. But are you willing to be open to having people in your home? And if you are, how often? Some people need to have entertainment every single night. Other people get drained by it and want to have it only once a week, maybe once a month, maybe every 3 months, maybe once a year. So what is it that you are comfortable with? And we can definitely take that example from Abraham in regards to him entertaining, as we found out later on, angels. That's pretty cool. I would like to entertain angels in my house. That would be cool.
Yeah, just, make sure that it's a point of discussion in your relationship, and just to make sure that you're on the same page. You don't want to come to find out after you tie the knot that one of you likes to entertain people and the other one doesn't. So yeah, just make sure that you talk about it.
Yep.
Second point in this chapter is going to be verse 14. You want to go ahead and read that one?
Is anything too difficult for the Lord? At the appointed time, I will return to you at this time next year, and Sarah will make a son. We'll have a son, not make a son, but have a son. And nothing is too difficult for God. You still have to have faith. Still have faith that you are going to meet your spouse if you are wanting to get married. Still have faith that you're going to have kids. Still have faith that you're going to be able to pay off your house. Still have faith that you are going to be able to find that job that you are looking for. Don't give up your faith. Sarah was 99 years old. Abraham was 100 and some years old when their son came around. So guess what? Don't lose your faith.
Yeah, this is going to be a point of discussion throughout this Torah portion.
Yeah,
we're going to come back around to it, but nothing is too hard for Yah.
Yeah.
We're going to move on to verse 17 through 19. And the Lord said, shall I hide from Abraham what I am doing? Since Abraham is certainly going to become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him. For I have known him, so that he commands his children and his household after him to guard the way of the Lord, to do righteousness and justice, so that the Lord brings to Abraham what he has spoken to him. Yeah. Very pivotal part here, where the Lord actually says, this is my way. My ways are righteousness and justice. And Abraham does these, and he's going to teach it to his household afterwards. So an important question that we should see is this your way? That's a very important thing, to be able to test yourself in that. Also, Can you see this? Can you experience this in someone that you're pursuing, a covenant relationship with? Do they do righteousness? Do they do justice? That's something that you want to look for, to observe, and to experience that in them.
Yeah. Yep. That's true. Do they have those good qualities?
And the last part in this chapter, we're not going to read all of it, but it starts in verse 23 and it goes through to the end. And there is this conversation that is going on between the Lord and Abraham. And we just see it as a really good example of what Sarah has termed a ping pong conversation.
Yeah. Where you are having a conversation with somebody, and this can be any person, this could be a family member, this can be a friend, where you say something back and then they say something back. But when you're saying something, you want to refer back to what they just said. So if they're talking about a family vacation and about going to the beach and seeing a sunset or building a sandcastle, you want to ask them and be like, well, why do you like doing those things? What is it that you like about the beach vacation? What is it about building a sandcastle that you're wanting to go ahead and do? Or you want to respond back to a little piece of what they just said, because it shows that you are listening to that person's conversation. And then hopefully they're doing the same thing. So when you're talking about your favorite memory as a child, they're able to go ahead and ask and be like, well, why did you pick that memory out versus another memory out? Then you're able to have an actual conversation back and forth, and it's not a yes-no answer kind of conversation.
Yeah, so this just conversation 101. But it's a good example of it. So we definitely want to bring it out. Make sure that you're participating in the conversations and not just doing all the listening. Well, let's go on to chapter 19. Okay. There's so much going on in this chapter. We don't have a whole lot of time. We are going to look at a couple things. One is in verse 29. If you've listened to these Torah portions that we've been doing so far, I have talked to you a little bit about this word for remember. It is the Hebrew zakar, and I think that it is better translated as act on behalf of. So we're going to get a little something cool out of this. I hope you like it. Reading verse 29, thus it came to be, when Elohim destroyed the cities of the plain, that Elohim remembered, or he acted on behalf of Abraham, and sent Lot out of the midst of the overthrow when he overthrew the cities in which Lot had dwelt. Mm-hmm. So we can see that Lot was sent out of those cities because of the relationship that Abraham had with Yah, with the Lord. There's some really interesting things that we can take out of this. One thing that we can take is that this is a picture somewhat where Abraham would represent Yeshua and where Lot would represent the world or even Israel. And the salvation, if you will, or the covenant is not on behalf of anything that Lot did, but it's because of what Abraham did. And that's the same thing between like the world or Israel and Yeshua. Mm-hmm. We don't get to enter into the covenant because of anything that we did, but it's because of what he did. Yeah. So, taking that into our relationships today, have you ever gotten anything from somebody, not because of anything that you did at all, but because of something somebody else did? Yeah. Just think maybe one of your dad's friends did something for you, not because of your relationship with your dad's friend, but because of the relationship that he had with your dad. Yeah. So this is just an interesting part of a relationship that is here, and just wanted to bring that out.
That's really cool. You never know what kind of nuggets you're going to get out of reading God's word, definitely. Especially with a different lens, a different light, a different idea, a different thought. So every single year as we go through these Torah portions, look at it a little bit different. That's why we decided to look at it through the lens of relationships and all sorts of relationships.
The last part, we're just going to hit on this. We've already talked about it a little bit last week or the week before in Parsha Noah. Mm-hmm. But we've got an example of drunkenness, and drunkenness leading to some unwanted behaviors. Mm-hmm. So although there's no prohibition against drinking of any sort, the drunkenness is the problem. And the drunkenness is what leads to bad decision making. And it just all kinds of things like you were talking about.
Yeah. It can lead to not being able to see red flags. I mean, if the person always has to have a drink, is there a red flag that they're hiding? What is going on? Why do they have to feel like they have to have a drink every single night? And I'm not talking about just a glass of wine, you guys, where it's like literally a glass of wine. I'm talking about having a 6-pack, or having a bottle a night. I mean, that says something if you're seeing that a little bit more, and I know that firsthand, being in a relationship where somebody had that much alcohol every single night, and it was like, okay, something's going on here. There was some other underlining red flags, and the person's personality starts changing as you start drinking. They might not see it, but you can see it if you step yourself back from the situation a little bit and be able to really dig deep and look into that, figure that out. And if you have family members that experience that, are you wanting your kids to be around that? Are you wanting your grandkids to be around that? We enjoy a glass of wine, and also Moscow Mule. They're great. We don't get drunk. We do not get drunk. We do not get buzzed. We don't have any of that, because that's not what God wants us to be able to have, and to be able to be that way, in other words. So you
want to remain sober so that you can think clearly.
Yes.
And make good decisions.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. So if you have an emergency that happens, guess what? You can still hop in your car.
Yep.
And get to the hospital where you need to be.
Yep.
Yeah.
One more thing before we get out of this chapter.
Yeah.
It's something down here about what came about because of this drunken, thing.
Yeah.
We have the Moabites who came back, and who's a famous Moabite.
Yeah.
Ruth.
Right?
Yep. So Sarah did have something about Ruth, and just because she came from an unsavory generational past.
Yep. Sometimes our past does not dictate our future. So let that sink in a little bit. Ruth's past generations of Ruth did not dictate her future of what God called her to be. And look who we got from it. So don't let your past get in the way of where you're going in the future. Yeah.
In chapter 20, don't know that we'll read all this. I'm just going to make a point, though, that in chapter 20, we get this encounter with Abimelech, which is going to almost seem like just a repeat from chapter 12 of Abraham and Sarah's interaction with Pharaoh.
Yep.
We're going to see here that Abraham is still having a fear problem, which is actually a lack of trust issue.
Yep.
Now, we all, have this problem from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
One thing to look at is, can you see yourself in this? Mm-hmm. Where are you in your journey? We're getting to experience Abraham's journey of faith, Abraham and Sarah's journey of faith.
Yeah, both.
And can you see yourself in this? And can you actually perceive or see, trust and belief in your potential spouse, or do they tend more to fear what man can do to them? Definitely go and read Psalm 118 again. It's really great thing about, I don't fear man. What can he do to me? I fear the Lord. I fear Yah. That's the way to go. And, my fear is in him. My trust is in him.
And especially in the world we live in right now.
Yeah.
It's a matter of don't live in fear. Don't live in fear in regards to learning to live your life, learning to go for that job, learning to get married to somebody and have a child, and enjoy those lifetimes, those memories that we have going forward in the future, and learn from your mistake. I mean, if we look at this chapter versus chapter 12, it's very similar, same mistake that Abraham did. And Sarah had faith again. She still had trust that God was going to protect her in that situation. So learn from your mistake. Are you continuing to make the same mistake over and over again? And if you are, learn from it. Sit back and be like, okay, God, why am I continuing to make the same mistake? Why do I continue to lose my job? Why do I continue to pick the wrong person? Why do I continue to not feel good? I mean, it can be as easy as not making the right decision in regards to the food that you eat. So it's a matter of just making those right decisions and learning from that mistake that you've made and not repeating it again.
Good words. 21 verse 1. This is probably the only verse that we're going to read out of this chapter. Something very important here. I want you to key in on two phrases. And Yah, the Lord, visited Sarah as he had said, and Yah did for Sarah as he had spoken. So he visited her as he said, and he did for her as he had spoken. So what can we take away from this? What do we really want to get from this? Yah keeps his word.
Yeah.
And as imitators and image bearers of Yah, it's imperative that we are true to what we say we will do.
Yeah.
We see in various places, we'll get to them as we move along through the Torah, that, whatever escapes from your mouth, that you shall do. So, be careful what you let escape from your mouth. But whatever you go ahead and say, you do it. Because you are the honor bearer of your God.
Yeah.
So that's something that we take to heart for ourselves, but also for the person that we would come into covenant with. Because if you come into covenant with somebody and they're not faithful to their word, then it's just about the same as you had done it. Yeah. So these are things, you really want to be able to trust in what someone says, that they'll do what they say, that they'll say what they do, because they too are trying to imitate and be like their God.
Yep. I think there's a scripture in there that says, let your yes be yes and let your no be no.
Oh, yes.
So your word is as good as your word is. So you want that to be accurate and not be with lies.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to hit into chapter 22 quick. And this is the chapter that is called the Akedah, the binding of Isaac. And I'm going to just read for us here verse 1 again. And it came to be after these events that Elohim tried Abraham and said to him, Abraham, and he said, here I am. The Hebrew is Hineni. But what we are seeing here is that Elohim tried Abraham. It spells it out here. We had spoken last time about the multiple tests that Elohim was giving to Abraham in this journey of faith that he is on. Him and Sarah are going through many tests throughout these chapters that we've been going through. So what we can really take away from this, I think, is that though Abraham's journey of faith had many tests, it had many highs, many lows, he had many opportunities to either fear Yah or to fear man. Yeah. Many times he feared man more than he did trust Yah. But slowly he is getting better and better and better. And he's ultimately going to prove himself, as he does in this chapter. Yeah. In fact, it says that in verse 12, the messenger of Yah said to him, don't lay your hand on the boy, don't touch him, for now I know that you fear Elohim, seeing you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me. Abraham passed the test. Yeah. Ultimately, he proved himself to fear and to trust Yah. He laid aside his human interests, and he passed the test. So what can we learn from this? We all encounter times of testing. Though we are not to test, the people that we're in relationships like this. That is for Yah to do. Yeah. What we can do is we can observe and experience how our mate, how our potential spouse, how are they handling their tests? And they can look at you and see, how are you handling their tests? This is one of the ways that we can really get to know somebody and see, are they the one for me?
Yeah. How do you handle a difficult situation? How do you handle a death of a family member or a friend, somebody that you know? What are you going to do when you lose your job? How do you handle different crises that happen in your life? What are you going to get mad? Are you going to get upset? Are you going to swear? Are you going to cuss? Are you going to throw things? It's okay to mourn. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be upset. But how do you handle those internal feelings? Do you stuff them, or are you able to talk openly and be okay with somebody loving you along the way, and helping you to be able to handle some of those raw emotions that happen in those crisis situations. and learn from the test, because they're going to happen. We know they're going to happen. We live in a broken world, where life is going to give us hard things, and as people say, if life gives you lemons, make lemonade. Learn to go ahead and make the apple pie, when you get thrown apples or whatever metaphor you want to use, how are you going to go ahead and handle the situation? And it's a matter of just learning from those situations.
Ultimately, there are many, many relationship issues that are going on in this parsha, but the theme that connects through the whole thing and through Abraham's whole journey is the journey of faith, the journey of trust. And that's, I don't have any better place to leave it than that. Trust in Yah.
Yeah, exactly. So we are very grateful you guys are along for this ride of us studying the Torah portion through the lens of relationships. I hope you guys like these videos that we're doing. Make sure you like and subscribe. Give us the little thumbs up tab, because that really helps us to be able to be seen. And so we so appreciate it. And we hope you guys have a fantastic study time. See you next week.
Shalom and Shavua Tov.
Bye.